Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Foreign Takes. I'm your host, YT. I'm here with Mr. KG. But wait, where's the third one, KG?
He's busy swimming. I heard the swimming season's in Florida.
Right. Before we go crazy, safe trips to him, safe vacation, whatever, safe life. We
Yeah,
hope the hurricane
safe
isn't too bad. Okay,
safe life.
bro, I have a
Yeah,
crazy question for you. Okay, we know that Florida is literally swampland and it's going to go back to being swampland. Why are people still moving there?
because it's warm and it's not a lot of taxes.
Okay,
Two
but
things.
what's the point of no taxes if your house is underwater? I don't understand.
I don't know. I don't know. I think you need to reserve that question for Mr. Big Lev. He will know. He will know what to do with that answer.
We'll ask him after the international break.
Uh,
Interesting weekend of football. Is that fair to say? Ups and downs.
Ups and downs. Yeah, I expected a bit more from the week overall, but it was an interesting week.
Yeah, I mean, let's just jump into it. I think we'll do it in chronological order this time. So, Arsenal v Southampton. It was 3-1 for Arsenal, despite going down initially. Pretty expected result, right? Not much to say about Southampton.
When Arsenal conceded the first goal, I was like, I knew they would. Southampton is their dodgy team. Aaron Ramsdale had a number on you. You didn't want to let go some goals. But it's a good game. It's a good game. Good for Arsenal.
But I have to say, unlike last week against Leicester, this was like it felt like a routine game. Yeah, they went down, but it felt like even the stadium was calm, the manager was calm. It felt like there was actual calmness, right? You can't really say there was no any bottling in this game. It was just like, yeah, we conceded, it's fine, we're gonna get the goals back.
I mean, it's Southampton. I would be worried if that wasn't the case. United even beat Southampton, and we barely beat them.
That's high bar. But can we? I think what forgetting the game. I think one thing you and I have chatted about on like WhatsApp and stuff is the whole Ramsdale thing because I think there was a lot of talk about Ramsdale when he was quote unquote not replaced by Araya last year. But after seeing Ramsdale this year with Southampton, it was the right decision by Arteta, right? Like Ramsdale is not a top tier goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think it was a right decision from the start. I don't know what he purchased Ramsdale, right? It was under his tenure. I don't know what
Yes.
possessed him to buy him. For me, it was in general like the English goalies are not well renowned. I think that's the only position that the English team needs to modernize. I think in any other position on the English national squad, there is a player that is a modern type player, except for the goalkeeper. Their goalkeepers are always throwback, like 90s David Seaman style goalkeepers in 2025 and 2024. And they just need to update. I don't know why Arsenal went for Ramsdale even.
I mean, he had a good first year, right? Like he helped us elevate the whole connection to the fans. There was energy, but that's not good enough when you're trying to be consistent for a whole season, right? He makes too many.
Yeah,
He's too emotional, essentially. But I agree with you about the England thing. I feel like they're either throwback, and the ones that's good with their feet, aka Ramsdale, is not good at anything else. Essentially, like he's not
yeah,
good enough.
yeah.
But then
He's
they
not good
have
enough.
because you look at Nick Pope, amazing goalkeeper. The man, his feet are useless. He looks like he has hockey sticks for feet.
I mean, to be fair, they can use Nick Pope and then have John Stone start the attack. He doesn't need to play the long balls. There are ways around it. It's just, I mean, everyone wants to play this. Is me going on the rant again. I don't understand why everyone has to play this one style of football. It's not interesting to watch. Like if everyone does the same thing, it's essentially I don't know. It's boring. Like essentially,
Yeah,
it's if the UFC weigh-ins were all about wrestling and not about knocking people the fuck out. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's a beautiful move, but everyone's wrestling. It's like watching wrestling instead of UFC. That's what football feels like these days.
you know what's funny? That's actually the reason I don't watch UFC is because I feel like the majority of UFC is about grappling and like on the ground, not about actual hits. Is that
No, that's not a
really?
fair assessment. No, depending on if you watch all the Dagestani fighters from that part of the world, yes, that's all. That's all that those type of mixed martial arts schools do in the region. They do wrestling. They don't do much other than that. But if you look at Brazilian fighters and other fighters, usually just getting knocked out
Oh,
wherever.
interesting.
Yeah, different
Interesting.
types of styles. they do some sort of wrestlings, but then they also have bloody messes and carnage in it. And I think I know we're diverging from football, but that's how they get money. Essentially, that's the most draws in terms of views, and then they get the most purses because it was the most entertaining fight.
Oh,
But the
interesting.
most effective way to win is by wrestling
Yeah. Okay.
because submissions and takedowns count as you winning. So you can essentially wrestle someone to the ground and hold them in a position. He may not even feel it to be that painful to him, but it will count towards him in terms of points because he's been in control of the match. So he can submit you in 3 rounds out of the 5 and win just because he was on the ground. You
See,
know?
this is why I just sound agree understood, and that's why I can never. If it's yeah, but this is also I hate Dana White. That dude is so
Yeah.
annoying. The day he leaves, maybe I'll start watching because I like watching boxing. I just hate UFC because of him.
Boxing is interesting, yeah. But
Yeah,
here's an interesting parallel that I'll do with football, and then we'll move on to the next game. Is that football can and potentially will be in this experiencing the same problems as boxing does. You know how boxing doesn't have a unified system? They have this belt, WTO, WBA, or whatever belt. Football is going to be that if they don't get their shit together with this new FIFA World Cup, new UCL format, Premier League doing this, they're doing this games, that games. FIFA wants in the money, they want in the money. It is complicated for the average Euro who didn't grow up with the sport. Like for Americans, it's very difficult to explain in casual conversation. If they know soccer, they've watched the Premier League. But then when you try to explain the Champions
Champions
League
League. Yeah.
and then everything, they just get, why do we have to do it? What is that? And they're just going to complicate it even more to the point that it's going to lose interest. Just like boxing is, you know the individuals, but you don't know what is WTA or what's WBO.
See, I
So
agree, and this is actually going back to the topic we are talking. The reason it will get solved is because of the injury crisis. Because I think we were talking about all the ACLs that have happened already. It's freaking early October, and we've seen because of too many games. Right? We all know it's too much traveling, too many games. I think the quality of football will get worse and worse, and then with the Club World Cup next summer, which they still don't know how much they're getting paid, who's playing,
yeah,
they still have no. I think by then the quality there will be so many players injured and so many players will start pulling out of games that not next year but the year after they'll start reorganizing and reshuffling it to have a more simplified structure which will include fewer games. But I agree with you, I think it's so complicated now. People know two things: Premier League or World Cup. Everyone knows what the World Cup is, the easiest one, right? But now with the
yeah,
expanded World Cup again, it just loses all the joy. Again, too much football is a thing. I don't know. I know it's crazy to say because we love football, but it's actually possible to have too much football. You lose all the magic of it.
yes, I agree. And when you're expanding your mandate and you're gonna have random games, like nobody's gonna watch. I mean, with all due respect, the Euros was boring because
Yes,
all
very
the teams,
boring.
you can only highlight Georgia out of the small teams that did perform. The Slovakias, the Slovenias, yeah, it was interesting to watch because England struggled with them, not because they put in a great performance. Now the counter argument is going to be, but how are the small teams are willing to succeed? It's not like smaller teams didn't succeed before. You just need to be a well-run team, and you
Croatia
need
is a perfect
to,
example, right?
yes, yes,
One of the smallest countries, one of the best. Finish
yeah,
consistently third, sometimes second. I'm like, you can do. But the alternative is you make it so that there's a way to get into the top, like into the tournaments for the smaller teams. Maybe you split the pools. There's groups seeding, whatever it is. It's like you can still do it. It's just they choose to have bigger and bigger. It's about money at the end of the day, right? That's why
yeah,
we have all of these issues. It's about because they want money.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it
Wait,
is.
no. Speaking of money and both, weak teams. So Man City 3, Fulham 2.
What
I
a
think.
transition.
I mean, I think this game was summed up by the end of the game when Pep was just in the middle of the field at the end with his hands on his hips, shaking his head, and then trying to explain to his La Masia child, Adama Traore, how to finish at the end of the game because
Man,
City pulled this one. I mean, it wasn't pulled. It was Traore gave this game to City, right? Is that fair
yeah,
to say?
it is fair to say he did not bury a lot of chances.
I just, how are you a professional player who went through the Barcelona academy, who does the worst fin. He hit the goalie 4 times straight at the goalie. How do you do that? Please
I think
explain.
he was doing Pep a favor. I think that was more of a, hey, thank you for saving my ass. I don't have Rodri. How else am I gonna play? I need to play this certain style of football because other than that style of football is not applicable to me. I don't have Rodri. What am I gonna do? He still wins a lot of games. Yeah, the other teams fold under pressure. I don't know. I really don't like Pep with his recent statements. He's very defensive
He's so
of what is
defensive.
happening. And
Because
when
he
you're
knows his
defensive,
legacy on the line, right? In many ways,
yes.
he knows
Um,
that this, especially the City legacy, because the Barcelona, you can't really take it away from him. But afterwards, you're like, oh, look, Pep, the reason you beat Klopp 5 out of the 6 times is because City literally cheated their way to this team.
yes, they have. But the Barcelona legacy is not only about him.
No, of
That's
course, you
also
had Messi and Iniesta and
yeah,
freaking
yeah.
Xavi. Like,
You don't even mention Puyol and Piqué, right? This is
yeah,
just
exactly.
yeah. But he's yeah. This is all about him. He made them. Still not the same. The media tries very hard. Everyone, all the podcasters, media representatives love Pep Guardiola. They love him. I don't understand why, but they do. And he still doesn't feel the same as the Shankleys and the Fergusons of the football game.
Yeah. This was so frustrating, especially for Marco Silva, who was just sitting there fuming, being like, he came up with the perfect game plan. The only flaw in his game plan is that it was Traore finding the shot. Like,
Yep,
anyone else in that Fulham team, especially Jimenez, would have been bearing these chances. But I think, leaving Fulham aside, it shows that City, you can get at them now, especially the
yep.
Rodri thing. I know they won the last 2 games and so on, but you can definitely see that there is a chink in the armor, and that with the right team, if they can finish, you can get at the City team.
Depending on who's going to play against City like that, I don't think anyone's going to take them and risk in the coming games.
But you
There
have
are a
to, right?
handful of teams.
Like,
Yeah,
you cannot go and try to be defensive. You know you're going to concede, so you have to attack them. Like, Fulham finished 3-2, and it was a close game. They could have won it. What's the point of going and sitting back and trying to do a one counter like as Everton would? Just attack them. If you're going to lose, you might as well lose and try versus just losing without trying.
yeah. But I honestly feel like this year it's Arsenal's for the take. I mean, they have a legit shot, just as Liverpool did back in the day.
Yeah, that's true. I think next, the most ridiculous game. I only caught the extended highlights. We were chatting about this. Was Brentford 5, Wolves 3. This NDVA. I mean, what? How do you even sum up this game?
I was watching that game instead of the Arsenal game, and I was not disappointed. That's how you can sum it up. It was just goal after goal. It was crazy. It was end to end, and it was literally like boxing. And the better boxer at the moment, which would be Brentford, won. They knocked them out because it was literally goal, 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 and then Brentford just kept at it. Wolverhampton was just so bad defensively. The positioning, the sloppiness. Going forward, they were okay. So hence the 2-3 goals. But Brentford was just they were better defensively. They made the two mistakes at the beginning, conceded goals, and then they got their act together because they knew that they could attack them and
Yep.
exploit their weaknesses. They figured it out essentially earlier. Um, but yeah, a crazy game to watch. Good scoreline. What happens to Gary O'Neill? I don't know.
I mean, so we were chatting about this, but Gary O'Neill, I think, has had the hardest start to a season in terms of like the difficulty of the games. I think it's like the most difficult start to a season in like the last 20 years or something. He's essentially played the top 8 of last year. He's played all of them, and then with one or two. He's also lost Max Kilman, his main center back of last year. His sub was, I think, also ACL'd, I think, most of the
Yeah,
era, and he's lost his primary winger, which was Pedro Neto. It hasn't been replaced. I mean, they put him in one of the most worst positions, right? Like, you cannot fire him because I think his next, after the international break, he's playing Man City, which is a terrible. But then I think he plays 5 of the bottom 6. So you have to wait till at least he's finished with those games before you make any decision. Is that fair, or do you sub in and hope the new manager gets to beat those 5 teams?
depends on what their goals are. I think that's the discussion they should have had. once they sold Pedro Neto and agreed to that, he should have, depending on what kind of leverage he got. If he got the leverage of saying, "Hey, you're selling my best striker. I don't know what we're going to do going forward. I know we're aiming to finish from 12 to 14, but that's not attainable, and we're going to be fighting for relegation until you sub them up in January," then that makes sense. But if their agreement was, "Oh, we're going to finish 12, that's our goal," they're not going to be finishing 12 easily because they have a relegation for.
Yeah.
They're still
But
better than Everton on
exactly.
paper.
I was gonna say, but they're still better than almost all the bottom teams, right? Ipswich,
Yeah.
Everton, all of them. I just feel bad for him because you see, he has such a good game plan. They just cannot execute sometimes. I don't know. I know we're up on Gary O'Neill, but it would be, in my opinion, it would be stupid to fire him without letting him give him till Christmas or close to Christmas. Let him finish the full first half of the games. You can't
We'll
judge him
see.
against City, Liverpool. Like that's not fair. I know the Brentford game was bad though. To be honest, that was a terrible
No,
result.
but the City Liverpool, they usually take away points at home. At home, Wolverhampton was one thing to take away from Gary O'Neill is that Wolverhampton before him was always clean and tight at the back at home. You would
Yes.
never get a lot of goals at home, but with him, and that comes with the sacrifice that you make when you try to play more creative football going forward. But then when you don't have that, it takes it away. Like you can't concede many goals from Liverpool and not make it easy. Like Molyneux was a ground when people would go and lose points
Yeah.
at some pacing
That
times.
that's a good point. Speaking of not conceding goals, there was another game of not conceding goals, which was Aston Villa 0, United 0, and as our favorite manager, the Dutch bald guy said, this was an improvement. It's our fourth clean sheet, so you see its progress. We're making movement forward. What's your take on this game, my friend? At this stage, what more do we have to left to say?
First of all, Johnny Evans, MB, applause, standing up. If I could stand up, I would stand up and
Man of the
applaud.
match, man
Man of
of
the
the
match.
match.
Not only man of the match, Bayern Munich lost to Aston Villa 1-0, and they had the best defenders in the world, arguably, and with the best goalkeeper in the world, arguably. And he kept on that clean sheet at 36 years old. Probably his best game in the Premier League ever. Like, I mean, he also played for Leicester. I don't know if did he play in that title winning squad or
No, I think
he
he
was.
came right afterwards.
Yeah, right afterwards. But one of the best Premier League games. I mean, applause. Like he was called off with Harry Maguire. Also applause to Harry Maguire because I think he's a mentality monster. But other than that, there's not much to say. I hope Ten Hag is gone, but there is no news approving or disproving that. We will know more about it tomorrow because our favorite American is in town to talk with our favorite British guy to figure out what are they gonna do. Who else life are they gonna suck off before they proceed with this decision? But yeah,
I mean, the rumor mill is already going right. Oh, Tuchel is interested, blah blah blah. I'm just like, get everybody out of their misery and get rid of him. I feel like even a temporary manager for the rest of the season would be better than this middle mediocrity. I don't know how else to describe it, right? There is literally no plan in the team after 3 years. Like, there's not a single United fan that is not delusional who would tell me that there's a real plan for this team, right? There's nothing.
there's a lot of delusional people. I've met them, and they turn in the past 2 or 3 games. I was I was convinced that with the fake, not fake, with the results that they put in important games, I was certain with in the context of the moment in time when there was a lot of injuries, I thought he can play the game. He just needs the people. So I was believing in him in that moment. And that's why I didn't want him to get sacked at the end of the season. I was like, maybe if everyone's back, he can do something. The first 3 games, he had everyone. The only excuse he had, oh, he doesn't have Luke Shaw. What is Luke Shaw going to do? Is Luke Shaw Messi? What is he going to do that he's going to solve? Yeah, Dalot shit is striking bad. Yeah, he's not the greatest at left back. And that's more commentary on the management how they didn't substitute the left back. Sold, by the way, one of the best left backs that Benfica has right now for peanuts. Um, where they could have kept him. But yeah, there's no plan, there's no cohesion, there's no point in going forward. and the only way the way he can get a result is in the sacrifice of scoring goals. He can
Yep.
only get results being defensively solid and amazing, but then going nothing forward unless Bruno sparks a magic moment or someone
Yeah.
does, and they're not in form because of you, because you're not managing them correctly. That's the only thing.
Yeah, it was hopeless. But I have to say, for both Villa and United, though, you could very clearly tell the European games had impacted both. They both looked like there was like sharpness missing, right? Every last pass, every extra sprint, you could tell that both teams were operating at 70%. In all honesty,
Yeah, yeah. The teams were tired from the European games. They probably put more on the line for the European games. I honestly sometimes think managers collude. You know, like they probably know this. It's international break is soon. You need the result. I'm good with the draw. How about we play it out for a draw? But like, it just seemed like that because Emery talked a lot before the start of the game. He was like, "I'm preparing extra. I'm taking
yeah, I
notes."
saw that.
And for what? For Eric Ten Hag. But yeah, I hope he's not there at the beginning of the resumation of the season. But you never know. You never know. I think he may
Yeah,
stay till the end of the year.
that's wild. I mean, on the flip side of this incredibly boring game was probably the highlight of the weekend. In all honesty, was Brighton 3, Spurs 2, which was, I hate this cliche, but it was true, a game of two halves. So Spurs should have been gone, dead, out of sight in the first half, and then got absolutely spanked. I- what do you describe this game? You saw Big Ange's reaction at the end of the game. He just looked like he saw genocide happening or something, right? He was absolutely shocked.
I mean, Big Ange is also the same type of. He's a more hairy fraud than Ten Hag is. I don't understand. It's the same thing. It's you know what's their commonality between Ten Hag and Ange? They believe in some sort of style of play that doesn't work or is not productive or is not beneficial, and they will die on it. Like you're 2-0 up. It's Brighton away. They are like we all know they are very dangerous. 2-0 is nothing for them. They can't come back. If you let one in, they're gonna go for a second. You're gonna get a draw. Why do you need that? Tighten up on the back. Stop pushing a high line. No, he continued to play the way he wants to play. It's reckless. They're reckless the way they play, and that football style of football is unsustainable in the Premier League, regardless. And it's unsustainable for Ten Hag, and it's unsustainable for Postecoglou. And I don't know. I don't know what
I
else
mean,
to
it
say.
was crazy, right? Because you'd see, I mean, the number of times in the second half, while they were still had the lead, even at 2-0 and then at 2-1, where you look at the formation, and I have a couple freeze frames, and it's literally Vicario in the back, the two center halves split, and then literally the rest of the team is at least 40 meters away from them. There's no support. No, the fullbacks are gone. The center mids are complete. I just don't understand. I'm like, why would you not drop at least one of your fullbacks to stay back? Why wouldn't you bring one of your center mids? Why are you pushing 8 players up front? Essentially, it's I don't understand it. It really makes no sense to anybody.
Yeah, that's what it is. And he was proclaimed the Messiah when they beat Chelsea like that last year. Remember, he came out
Yes.
and said, "I'm never gonna do anything to my style," and everyone, including the characters and Neville's of the world, went like, "You gotta give it to him. Man has balls." That's what they said, which is stupid. It's stupid. The whole, all the good managers in the history of the game were well known for being man managers, were well known for being game managers. They knew who to put on at what time, they knew who to sub out at the right time, they knew what to do at the right moment because they needed the result. It would sacrifice the way they play most of the time, but they needed the result. It's not like they played it from the start. But again, I think that died off. That type of manager and that type of gameplay died off with Jose Mourinho, and there are no one close. No one is close to have that type of stuff.
You know
It's
what's
all
funny? It's funny you say that because last week or the week 2 weeks there was a lot of comparisons. Oh, Arteta's doing a Mourinho. He's being defensive. I'm like, no. What he's being rational. He's saying this game plan won't work. Let me switch it up. You know what happens? You get a result. You may not like it. It may not look pretty, but at least you have to try it because you've learned your lesson. And I think this is the difference: is Arteta is evolving. Big Ange has said, "I refuse to evolve," and this is what happens when you refuse to evolve. Is that
We
fair?
had this we had this discussion before, right? These new crops of managers, the new school of thought that came through, and mostly because of Pep Guardiola, they're all stubborn, and that's what Ten Hag is as well. That's what everyone is. If you have a job and something doesn't work out, like you need to understand how to adapt to a different style of play, figure out what you have to do. But people believe in something just like believing in Jesus Christ or someone else, and you're just going, okay, this is what I'm gonna die on, and
Yep.
even if it doesn't work, I'm gonna die on that. On the comment for Arteta thing, I did listen to a podcast with the overlap, the Gary Neville show with Roy Keane and all of them, and I respect all of them. They're United legends. I grew up watching them, but the commentary is so stupid. I
So
didn't agree with
stupid.
it at all. That logic does not make any sense. What do you mean? Like the 10 men, we didn't do any. Like we didn't play forward. Yeah, they had. Yeah, I can agree to an extent that you may have wanted to try to play your own game for the first 10 minutes of the second half. That's the only argument I would say. But if it's the 65th minute and he didn't do that, you would be sitting here and saying, why didn't he freshen up the shores? He was two
Exactly.
one up.
Exactly.
The
Makes no
only
sense.
crime, the only crime that Arteta did is he sat back and did that earlier than he did before. That's the only crime that he had. I don't understand it. I think it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, they could have played better, but I think it's more of a they should have used it as a compliment to Arteta and told him that he needs to refine that style. Essentially saying that you can't it's unsustainable to sit back for 15 minutes of the game. You better find a way how you can sit back and then counterattack with that.
Yep.
That would make sense.
Yeah, some of their criticism. I mean, on the Brighton side, though, I have to say, the Herzler. I mean, he's what 30, 31. I feel like he's almost. You can see game by game, he's learning stuff about the Premier League. I feel like he's getting better game by game because they're very interesting to watch. Though you have to say, Brighton, I think tactically is one of the most interesting games. Even the games when we think they're being super naive. I think that game a couple weeks ago when they played the High
Yeah,
Line against Chelsea,
Chelsea.
super naive. But this time he learned his lesson. He actually adjusted in the second half. He dropped Lewis Dunk about 5 meters deeper. He brought the goalie up by 5 meters. But I have to say, they're very like Brighton on their day can beat any team. I think like
Yes,
literally any team in the whole world, Brighton can beat them. I think is a fair statement to say.
it's a fair statement to say. I
Yeah,
also think that they're doing it too much again with all the football that they do. It's not entertaining to me anymore. Like I know what you're gonna do. It's
yeah,
essentially who's gonna do it, who's gonna run more in training and do it to the most perfection. I don't. It's not. There's no uniqueness. There's no moment of grace. I would
yeah.
say.
I mean, we talked about it, but
Yeah.
okay. One last shout out before we wrap up on that though on the Brighton game. Danny Welbeck has is amazing. I have to say, he has revived his career and found this new energy. Post United, post Arsenal. Thank God he left Watford. But there's something to be said that he is consistently scoring, he's consistently assisting. Like shout out to Danny Welbeck for reviving his career because he's the opposite of. This is going to sound controversial. Jesse Lingard, like that weak mentality style. I feel like him and Ashley Young have kept going and found a new wind in their career. So
Yeah.
shout out. Fuck off, Jesse Lingard. You see, that guy keeps showing up on my socials. He annoys me to no end. He's such a so weak willed, so weak mentality. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
You
he
feel
went
like a
to play in
different
Korea.
generation. I
Yeah.
know. He's still
No, no,
doing.
but Danny Welbeck, Johnny Evans, what a legendary pair of the last of their kind of the United
Oh, yeah.
Fergie flops, not
Ah,
flops, flock. United Fergie flock. That's what it is.
a different
But
era. I
yeah,
felt bad for Fergie. Even, I don't not have any love for Fergie. I have a lot of respect for Fergie. But he was just sitting up there in the Villa stands next to that Ratcliffe and the rest of them. I was just like,
I feel bad. It's you need to feel bad. Anyone feels bad. Imagine you build something up and then a bolt throat comes in and shits on your legacy. And it's not the first person to do it.
yep.
Multiple other frauds try to do it. Something something's definitely. I think Paul Pogba buried something in Old Trafford.
Some
It's
juju.
juju.
Yeah. We're gonna see Pogba. Wow, Pogba. Okay, quick question. Do you think Pogba will actually play for Juventus? Because obviously Juventus are pissed.
No, no, no. He's not. He's not gonna play. If Allegri was still manager, he would probably play. Since it's Mota, he's not gonna.
Ah,
I don't know who they're gonna sell him to. Probably somewhere in Saudi Arabia. I don't
but
know.
again, Saudi's not taking these, has-beens. They're basically, cutting back on the spending, and they owe him a lot of money after cutting back all this summer. I don't think they were expecting Pogba to be able to come back.
I don't know. I don't know how Juventus is going. They're going to find probably a middle ground and cut off his contract, and then he'll do maybe he's going to pull Andy Carroll, like an Andy Carroll move. He's banging in goals in the fourth division with Bordeaux, which is sad also by the way for Bordeaux being in the fourth division. I had no idea, but
Deserved. They were run terribly. Imagine Pogba joins Andy Carroll at
oh
Bordeaux.
yeah, banging in goals in the local park. Uh, that's where
Ah,
they deserve to be. Not what's it called, Andy Carroll, but Paul Pogba for sure doesn't deserve
yeah.
to be in the top four.
I like Andy Carroll. The fact that
Yeah.
who are your favorites for Champions League this year? And do we think they'll actually be able to manage it this year?
Can we remove? Let's do this for the sake of this experiment. Can we remove the traditional names? Can we remove the Madrid cities?
Inter's.
Inter is not a traditional. I would say
Oh,
Bayern. Everyone quotes like all the
oh,
typical.
completely fair. So I'll give you one. Inter, I think, is the my favorite of the dark horses.
Yes, mine as well. I would call. Was about to shout them out. Yeah.
I mean, what's his name? Inzaghi, incredible coach. The team still incredible. The only question will be injuries. I think that's the only question. It's like, will they be a healthy team by the time the end of the season comes?
Yes, I agree. I agree with that because I think that their main strengths is their midfielders and their ball carriers, and they're all a bit old. It's
Yes.
Mkhitaryan, it's Çalhanoğlu's. They're the
Yes.
main engine force that keeps them moving.
Yes. And
But
then Barella has to be healthy, but they're going to run him
yeah,
into the ground.
yeah,
That's the question. But also, I mean, in all honesty, they were one Marcus Thuram goal or finish away from winning it last year, right? It's just his finishing; he just skied it. But I think Inter also, for anyone who doesn't watch them, the one of the most interesting teams to watch. In all honesty.
definitely.
Okay, so I'll give you a second one. Arsenal.
Arsenal is a good shot. I think Arsenal beating PSG proved the point. I think they're gonna have a tough time getting to the final, but I think they're up there as contenders.
Right? They can beat any team on their day. I think that's fair to say. Any team, like they can beat. I think it's because of the Premier League that they won't win the Champions League. Like it's just too many games. They'll
Yeah,
be too tired, and the squad is so thin already. I think, but yeah, but we have to say, like, if it comes to 2 games, they'll beat anybody. Like, why wouldn't they beat City over 2 games?
that's it. These are potential contenders to the semifinals, like the top four.
Okay, fair.
Let's. I'll not give you like the weight of being potentially the winners because with the Premier League, the first time round especially is difficult.
Okay, so then the difficulty goes with the rest of them. So I know this is going to be super controversial. I'm going to add Aston Villa to that.
No, 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 no. Aston Villa's not gonna be there. They're gonna qualify and they're gonna get knocked out. Not the first time, the second time.
Really? You think so?
Yes, yes, yes. They have John Duran for saving them. They don't have anything else. I think they're good and solid squad, but they're not semifinals of a new format where there's more games, Champions League type of deal.
I
I'll give
mean,
you a definite shout for them.
okay.
I think it's Barcelona's gonna be
Oh, yes, the new Hansi Flick
with the new
team.
Hansi Flick sparkle in them. It's not the same clown show that it was before. They're actually run like a German machine. He's learning on the job as well by thinking that the La Liga is totally a farmers league when he tried
Yes.
to rotate and that didn't work out. But for the Champions League, I'm certain they're going to be up there in the
Yeah.
last eight or the last four. Last
Yeah.
eight for sure. They have to be.
I
But
think the
I don't know.
yeah, I think the only 2 things that they need to have is, yeah, Lamal has to stay healthy and
Yeah.
Lewandowski has to stay healthy because they have to have both. They can't be missing either one in order to get there.
Yeah.
And then I guess my question is, where do we think Leverkusen? I think because from the rest of the teams, I think we can say they're not like the Svernas of the world. But I think Leverkusen, do we think they have a shot at it?
Maybe they're weaker this year, and I think a lot of big teams will have a number on them. If they come up against a big team, they'll go through. I don't see Leverkusen going through a Real Madrid or a Barcelona per se, or an Arsenal or a City. I see them going through Bayern because they play with each other a lot. I see them maybe potentially going through an Inter, but I don't see them doing that against a bigger club. My
Yeah, I
question
agree.
to you is, since Big Lev is absent, what do you think about Liverpool?
It's a good question. I actually think if any team, from especially from the English teams, I think they if they drop off the Premier League race early, like if they start tailing off now, like in the next month and a half, then they will focus on the Champions League. Because like what happened last year, there was a big gap between first, second, and then third, and there was just they were never going to make up the 9 point, 10 point, 15 point gap. I think if that happens, they will go for it and they'll save their legs for it. If they still think they are in it in January, February, I think the number of games will catch up to them. And really, it's like Van Dijk has to stay healthy, Salah has to stay healthy. Trent, I don't know if Trent matters that much. I know people love to talk about him, but I think without those two, and they're already in their 30s, so I think it's just about Premier League. If Premier League is they're still in contention, maybe. Otherwise, no.
Interesting, interesting. I think that if his first year is going to be nothing, I think it's just a transitional year, which he's doing quite well. I would judge him on the year two. So we'll see. If he wins the Champions League in his first year, it's
Legend.
basically Tuchel level performance.
And look where Tuchel is now. Yeah, waiting for the Man United. Yeah, I think that's a wrap for us. We will be taking a little break alongside this garbage international break. We're so sick of this. Can they cancel the international breaks already
And there's
next
another
year?
one in November, isn't
Oh
it?
God, what is going on this year? Someone explain.
Don't you want to watch Estonia versus Moldova? It's fucking
No,
the
I'd
battle of
rather
the former
gouge my eyes.
USSR. Yeah, it's gonna
No,
be
I have.
crisp 0-0 till the 95th minute until Juspi Yasko. No, that was a finish. I don't
Are
know
you
in
kidding me?
crisp.
Oh my God! On that note,
You
we'll
remember? You
see.
remember? You remember UC Yaskalainen? That's the
Of
player.
course. Are you
Uh,
kidding me? Bolton
Prime
legend.
Bolton team that was so good. JJ Akochia. Oh,
JJ Okocha is so
you
good
don't
they
have
named him
those type of
twice.
players anymore. That's what
Ah,
I'm missing.
bro. I mean,
What I'm
but JJ
missing.
Okocha is like. I mean, they were. You know what? Let's end there before we go start reminiscing. We'll see you
Jim.
in 2 weeks.
Peace.